welcome back to this latest update on the Yarslow Model Railway after what has been a very long and warm August. There's been a lot going on in life generally, so I haven't had a lot of time in the shed, but what time I have spent really has been dedicated to point rodding. I seem to have been point rodding in my sleep for months, but I'm pleased to tell you that finally it's finished and we've got some progress on basic scenery. So let me take you back a little while and let's have a look at what's been going on over the last 6 weeks or so. Do you remember this? This was a year ago. No platforms, no overbridge. The walls, I think, were still bare wood at this stage. Junk and tools piled up in the corner. A few buildings dotted about to suggest what Yarslow might look like. The goods shed on the left there. Well, it's changed a bit in the last year. No Trinity Square on the left, notice. This is where we are now. Platforms, an overbridge, those painted walls that we looked at in the last video, and some proper trains running. Well, as I said earlier, the summer has been dominated by point rodding, and this view really shows the results of all that work. I've been using the Wills point rodding kits. You can see that where the signal box is standing, there are 10 rods travelling to the top left of the picture, and I think 6 or 7 to the bottom right, serving all of the main line and loop points that you see in front of you here. And of course, having got all that rodding in place, I could then paint the track, lay the ballast, and then start to weather. This section has not been weathered, but the bit beyond the signal box has. Now, if you've ever done a job on a layout that's lasted months and months and months, you'll appreciate that it's always good to do something else in between, just to keep your sanity in check. So I have installed my old hi-fi and tuner out in the shed, although the tuner subsequently failed on me. I've set up my speakers. These are Wharfdale XP2s for those with a technical interest. And I've bought myself another 4 strip lights. We've been talking a little while ago about the light and dark problem I've been having on the scenic sections of the layout, and I thought it was about time to cure that by simply replacing the 3 lights I had with 4. So I'm going to move them around and have a continuous line in effect of LED strip lights, and then with a pelmet in front, I'm hoping that that light and dark problem goes away. And of course, there's no point having a layout if you don't run some trains, so I've been starting to work on running some trains. Over the course of the summer, everything has had a run, including the pickup freight, or the stopping freight as perhaps I ought to call it, as a result of which, if you've seen my previous video on how I run my stopping freights, you'll appreciate that wagons start to appear at various stations. So this wagon appears here at Blowick Lane, and these 2 appear at Butterbump. And so, having got the point rodding finished, I then set about ballasting and weathering the track at this end of the layout, as you can see here. And I've now got some polyripple, the coarse textured stuff that gives you a finish like grit, over all of the scenic sections, so that I can now start on the basic scenery. You'll notice I'm using grey granite for the main line for ballast, and I'm using a buff coloured, much finer stone for the loop and the sidings, and this is representative of the ash ballast that was so often seen in the northeast. The weathering of the buff colour does need a bit more work. You can see it's clearly still buff coloured, so a lot more weathering required, and I've treated myself to some rail match frame dirt and track dirt, which I'll put through the airbrush, and I'll just take that brown tone away. And this is what it looks like at this end of the layout, with the white being put in really up to as far as the signal box. I haven't got any further than the signal box, but you can see I've ballasted here right down to the edges of the platforms. The last bit of the point rodding came all the way down to serve these 2 points that are in the loop behind the station. That's platform 3, and rather conveniently the rodding that crosses the track is lost and disappears under this barrow crossing that will run across the end of the platforms, and of course it will extend beyond the track and across the platform at the far side. Looking the other way past the Palethorpe's van that's been failed out of traffic because the wheels are so awful, it looks like we've had a bit of a snowstorm, but that's just the polyfiller, and that will be coloured in due course. You can see that gritty texture that you end up with when it dries, but that'll disappear under the scatter material and the static grass. It does give you a really nice solid finish. You will remember that I ran out of chocolate brown paint, and I painted this that lovely greeny mustard colour. I did find some more brown paint, but it looked a bit kind of Devon red earth, but it will now be painted chocolate brown before we do too much more. I've also had the opportunity to acquire some more wagons and really start to fill up the number of wagons I need for the stopping freight. So the vans in the background here have been added, and I've done the same for the vans train that runs from storage around to Trinity Square. Those of you who, as I say, will remember how I run my pickup freight trains will appreciate that this will run the same way. So there are 3 groups of wagons here, a 2, and a 3, and then over in Trinity Square there are some more groups already there. So we have a group of 2 wagons on the front of here. Then there are 3 wagons sitting in that platform, and then 2 singles, and it could well possibly be a couple of empty groups. And the train will arrive and depart using 3 or 4 groups and collect a different 3 or 4 groups afterwards to depart. So I thought I'd show you some trains running just to finish this short update, and essentially that's all she wrote. There's the point rodding, and now I'm getting into the basic scenery. I'm really hoping throughout September that I have the opportunity to get some basic scatter material and scenic grass down at the down end of Yarslow as far as the signal box. Then I can get through and ballast the platforms, weather the track there, and then joy of joys, I'm back on the point rodding, but I've only got the point rodding to do at the up end of Yarslow and the new signal box, and I think there's only 5 sets of points that need to be sorted out there, so the runs will be quite short, or the complicated angle cranks will be quite few in number, and hopefully it'll only take me a couple of weeks to get it all sorted out. And of course, once you've got less of something to do, you get a bit more enthusiasm for it, don't you? So I'm hoping that's going to pass quite quickly, and my goal of having Yarslow platform tops in and the whole thing looking basically scenically complete by Christmas is very much looking on track. Thank you for sticking with me. Thank you for bearing up with me over the, as I say, very warm summer. It's been strangely warm in the UK, hasn't it? We're not used to seeing temperatures of 40 degrees. We're used to having our summers washed out with rain and everything else, so been rather weird. But there we are, this is what we've got. Yarslow bashes on. The sun always shines in Yarslow, of course. Never see any rain. I'll catch you next time at the end of September and hopefully give you a bit more of an update. I promise to spend some time trying to get another quick bites out to you in the interim. I do my best to fulfill that promise, and I'll see you soon.